Hey, welcome back. Today, I'm breaking down a tense moment from Capitol Hill, when Senator John Kennedy put Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg in the hot seat over Louisiana's role in America's LNG future. If you're into political drama, you're gonna want to stick around for this. So, let's set the scene. Senator Kennedy opens friendly, asking Buttigieg how his family's doing, but then, it's all business. Kennedy wants to know, plain and simple, how does Buttigieg decide which regulations to push? He uses this clever scenario about teens and car crashes, pushing Buttigieg to admit there's a balancing act between protecting people and overreaching government.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary. How are your babies?
Thank you for asking. They're doing all right.
As we were talking about earlier, my father used to tell me, you'll never know love until you have a child.
It's a different kind of love.
It is a
Senator.
different kind of love.
It's a wonderful thing.
I want to ask you a philosophical question, Mr. Secretary. How you and your team go about deciding whether to promulgate a new rule. Let me give you an example. Study after study has shown that the number of teenagers you have in a car is directly proportional to their chance of having a wreck. And we've known this for years. I'm not recommending this rule, because frankly, I don't know how I'd vote on it if it came to us. But suppose one of your team members came to you and said, look, if we promulgate a rule that you can't have, if you have a teenage driver, you can't have any other teenagers in the car with that teenage driver. How would you go about analyzing that?
Buttigieg keeps it calm, talks about data, input, the law, but Kennedy's not buying a vague answer when real jobs are at stake. Then the gloves come off. Kennedy holds up the law itself, literally reading from the 2021 Appropriations Bill. Congress said, in black and white, the National Center for LNG Safety should be in Louisiana, the top LNG producer, no question. But Buttigieg's agency hasn't done it. Why not?
Well, in this type of case, it would likely reflect the traditional division of labor that we've had between the federal government and the states, in that the federal government tends to regulate the design of a vehicle, the design of the roads, and safety issues related to that physical infrastructure and the physical vehicle, while state DMVs and state laws tend to regulate the conduct of a driver. So the very thing you're mentioning, for example, I think is why in some states there's a gradual approach where when you have your learner's permit, you can be behind the wheel, but there are restrictions on who could be in the vehicle with you for exactly that reason. I know you're asking this philosophically and not in terms of the particular policy that you're using as an illustration, but to zoom out more generally, we would look, as my answer up to now might indicate, at our authorities and our responsibilities. We'd look at the data and where it leads us. We'd look at what we think is likely to happen if we were to promulgate a rule like that. And then, of course, we'd get a lot of feedback. We would make sure that we have an understanding of what the different stakeholders think is important, information we might not be privy to. Now, having said all of that, the truth is it's rarely the case that we imagine a rule and go out into a universe as a blank slate and find out what might happen around it. Usually there has been dialogue, debate, and data building up for years that makes a potential rule rise higher on the list of a department that can only take so many regulatory steps at a time. And of course is also working to revise and occasionally withdraw older rules that are still on the books. But hopefully that gives you some sense of the approach that we would take and that we do take when we're thinking about our rulemaking authorities.
Okay. I'm going to get in one other question while I have time. In fiscal year 2021, in our appropriations bill, we created, we meaning Congress, a National Center of Excellence for Liquefied Natural Gas Safety. And the statute, I'll just quote it to you, it's short. Quote, in determining, this is what the statute says, in determining the location of the center, the Secretary shall, not may, but shall, locate the center in the state with the largest LNG production capacity as determined by the total capacity in billion cubic feet per day of LNG production authorized by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission under Section 3 of the Natural Gas Act as of the date of enactment of this act. That's Louisiana. Louisiana has a production capacity of 21.2 billion cubic feet a day. Your Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration doesn't seem to want to locate the center in our state, my state. Can you tell me why, if you know?
Buttigieg fumbles, says he'll look into it. Not good enough for Kennedy, who calls out what he sees as federal foot-dragging, maybe even bias. Kennedy makes it crystal clear, when a law is that specific, agencies need to follow it. For Louisiana, this isn't just a headline, it's about jobs, investment, and being recognized for powering the nation's energy. Bottom line, Kennedy wants honesty. He demands Buttigieg give a straight answer, not a bureaucratic dodge. And he warns, public servants answer to the public, not just their own preferences.
I'll have to consult with the Pipeline and Hazardous Safety and Material Administration to understand the latest on that Center of Excellence, but I can certainly tell you that we, of course, ensure any choice we make is conforming with statute, and so I'll want to make sure that whatever is underway is consistent with the law as written.
If you would look at it, I know you have a lot of things on your plate, but the law is pretty clear, and personal preference is not supposed to enter into this. And I think my state is clearly number one in production capacity. And I've noticed a determined reluctance by some of your agency folks to make this decision and put it in my state. Now, I'd much rather just have them be up front and tell me why.
I'll make sure to find out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
So, do you think Louisiana's being snubbed, or is this just politics as usual? Let me know in the comments. If you like these deep dives, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll be watching this story, and you should too. See you next time.